On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about the brand new Architects album, Holy Hell, Is It Good? Also, the album is called Holy Hell. But Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bronze Medalist podcast. We took a break, nice commercial break, and now we're back. I'm your host, Cale Borner.
You've got the whole sort of public radio thing going right now. Hi, I'm your host.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
I'm welcome back to the Bronze Medalist podcast, hosted on National Public Radio. We have a 30-second delay, so Jeffrey over there in the control room can bleep us.
Right. If we should say things like fuck.
Yes, or shit.
Yes.
Or goddamn. But interestingly, he would bleep the damn.
Yes.
He would bleep the god. Sorry. I already screwed it up.
Oh, well.
I'm not cut out for national radio. That's why I have to be, that's why I have to work in commercial.
Commercial radio and this lucrative podcast you have going here.
Yes, and also this lucrative podcast that is not hosted on NPR. Like I said, I'm Cale. You're OJ.
I'm OJ.
If you don't know that, you know that.
You know. You don't know, but you know.
You know. So today we're going to be talking about the new Architects album. It actually came out 2 weeks ago, something like that, week and a half ago. But it was an OJ week last week, so we did his first.
Thank you.
That was not meant to be said with any malice or anything.
No, that's fine. You said it was shitty, but I mean, it's fine.
I have such a problem sounding genuine. My entire life, I feel like I have had such an issue sounding genuine about anything. I always sound like I'm being sarcastic or I'm trying to be shitty. Like, my entire high school experience was people being like, Cale, why are you so mad about this thing? Why are you so angry about this thing? And I'd be like, I'm not angry about this thing.
Well, I wasn't until now.
Now I'm angry about it because you keep on insisting I'm angry. So yeah, that was just a peek into my high school life.
This has been a Cale moment.
This has been a moment in Cale's life. Some bullshittery before we get around to talking about the album. Thanksgiving came and went for us since the last time we recorded.
All right.
For you, it was on Thursday. So how was your Thanksgiving, by the way? I don't know if we talked about that at work.
I had a good Thanksgiving. It was very regular, very normal. We had
very normal Thanksgiving.
We had a bird. We just had a bird breast. We didn't do a whole bird because we always end up. Now we can't put anything else in the fridge for a month, and
I suppose,
and then we throw away most of a carcass. So we thought we'd just get the bird breast, and we did all the rest of the fixins. And
okay, that actually sounds pretty good.
Did very little else.
That sounds like it would work out pretty well. My family, we're very voracious turkey eaters, so I mean, we had a lot left over, but that shit's gonna get ate. And we usually don't sit, like, the carcass ends up going away that night, but what we do, like, once we're done eating at the table, my mom or my dad will carve all the meat off of the rest of the carcass, and then we'll put that in Tupperware.
Sure. And then she sends some of it off with each child.
Yeah. So I got some turkey, I got some potatoes, I got some buns, and that sort of thing. I think my other siblings got other stuff. I also got some jerky, some deer jerky. My dad already had it done.
He's already jerked the deer.
My dad has already jerked the deer.
That's not a metaphor for anything.
The deer,
literally.
The deer was jerked a little prematurely.
Okay.
The deer got done being jerked prematurely. It finished. Okay, that's enough of that. My dad already had the jerky done, so I took some of that home, and our Thanksgiving was pretty good. We actually did our supper on Thursday, not Thursday,
Saturday.
On Saturday, because my cousin who lives in Arizona was coming up. That was more convenient for her. It was more convenient for both of my sisters, I think, and it was more convenient for me having to work on Friday still. So. We did our celebration of Thanksgiving. We gave our thanks on Saturday, and that went pretty well. I spent a lot of time playing with my nephew, which is great because he's finally at the age where I know what to do with him.
Right.
Like he's almost 2, and he's starting to run around.
I thought you were going to say like 7, but he's almost 2.
He's almost 2. So he's like running around and playing with stuff, and like I'm not worried that I'm going to break him,
right?
Because he's just sprinting everywhere and doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
And Uncle Kale can tackle and tickle.
Yes, I can be a little rough with him. Yeah. I can horseplay a little bit. And so me and my brother-in-law, after dinner, we sat in what used to be my sister Hannah's room and is now like the nursery for when he's at my grandparents, or not my grandparents, his grandparents' house, which is my parents. And so we were sitting there and we were playing with him, me and my brother-in-law, which would be his other uncle, not his father, his other uncle. We were taking care of him for a little while.
Yeah.
And we discovered that he's fascinated by flashlights. So if you turn off the lights and turn on a flashlight and give it to him, he will just swing it around and look at stuff. We played shadow puppets and he was amazed by that. It was fantastic. And it was also very tiring. So it's like,
and then you can give him back
a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I can give him back.
Yeah.
It's like I have that experience. It's like, I get it. Yeah, playing with a kid is tiring. And then I gave him back to his parents who took him home. And that is the best part about being an uncle. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited for the rest of it. There's another one on the way. There's another bun in the oven.
Is there really?
Of that particular sister.
Congratulations. Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I worked very hard.
All right.
I willed the child into existence like Emperor Palpatine. So yeah, that was it. Thanksgiving was fun. Did you buy anything on Black Friday?
I did not. I'm not much of a shopper. I don't like to go into places where there's other people.
Yeah.
So, and Black Friday is definitely a day for people who go into places where there's other people.
Yeah. You did have to get up pretty early that day, though. I could have gone Black Friday shopping before work.
That's true. Because I had to be at work at 6:30, so.
The other guy who normally does the morning show.
Well, yeah, to be there at 6.
Yeah, Jeff probably was there at like. Jeff does the morning show with you.
Yeah.
And Jeff was probably there at like 4:30. Because the remote he did started at 5, didn't it?
Right. Yeah. No. He wasn't there. He was at the hardware store.
He just went straight to the hardware store.
Right.
Okay, that would make a lot more sense to go straight there. I was lucky. I escaped that whole shenanigan of everyone having to get up early because the other on-air announcer that we have also had to get up really, really fucking early.
Yeah,
I was the only one. I was the only one that escaped from that because they weren't doing the remote on my station. So I was good to go.
Yep.
I escaped that and I was happy about it. What about Cyber Monday? You got anything?
I also got nothing on Cyber. I'm not really a shopper. I don't.
Well, you said earlier you were gonna get.
I was gonna get Red Dead 2.
But you forgot.
I forgot. I'm not in the habit of going and buying things.
That's, I suppose.
It's weird.
I did buy something. I spent a lot of money on it, and it's currently on its way. I finally bought a new PC.
Yay!
Because I have been telling myself, okay, I'm gonna buy a new PC. I'm gonna buy a new PC. I'm gonna buy a new PC. I told myself that all summer long. Mm-hmm. Never bought a new PC. I did, however, spend a lot of money on my Ren Fair costume. And then later I did spend a fair amount of money on new microphones. You're welcome, listeners.
Yeah, these are nice.
And
they're sexy microphones.
Sexy, nice and black and sleek. Black and tubular and thick and... What?
What's
Sorry,
going on?
I got lost there for a second.
You sort of dozed off.
Yeah, I
got a little drool there.
I was thinking about something else.
What? I don't understand.
I was thinking about, baseball. Sport.
You were sportsing in your mind.
I was sportsing in my brain.
You were on a sports field with your favorite sporting squadron.
Yeah.
And you were sportsing.
I was sportsing very hard.
Mm-hmm. Were you sportsing harder than the other group?
I was really trying to sports harder than the other group. Uh-huh. But the truth is I'm actually not very good at sportsing.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter how hard I try to sports. My heart was in it, but it just wasn't working. So
even in your rich fantasy life, you're kind of a loser.
Yep. I mean, my brain knows me better than anyone else, so
that's a little bit true for me too. And I mean, and I'm not joking. Whenever I start thinking about a thing and I realize, nah, that really couldn't happen. It just ruins the fantasy for me.
Your own brain ruins the fantasies that you're trying to have. Yeah, that happens to me with like any kind of dream I have where things start to get a little too fantastical or a little too unrealistic for my own life.
Yeah.
Usually it's only with things that are good though.
Oh, sure. Of course.
So it's like, oh, I'm having a sexy dream.
Yeah.
Something real awkward's going to happen and we're going to move on to something else and forget about the sexy part of the dream. Or it's like, I'm about to fly. Oh, fuck. I forgot how to fly.
I really don't know how to do this.
I really don't know how to do this. And I don't like fall to the ground or die anything. I just stop being able to fly because I just forgot or at least remembered that I don't know.
A lot of my dreams end in some light bruising and apologies.
Oh, because you like flail awake and accidentally
no, I mean within the context of the dream.
Oh, within the context of the dream. Yeah. Okay.
I'm king of the world, and then
something bad happens.
Something bad happens.
Like, I'm so
sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm not the king of the world.
I apologize for that. Yeah. Here,
I'm sorry.
Put a little butter on that. It'll be fine.
A little butter on it. Not even a steak. Not even like a big steak like in the movies. Butter.
Just rub some butter in it.
Why is that a thing that people put steak on wounds?
Because it holds cold very well.
I guess
it's to reduce swelling. A steak comes to room temperature very slowly.
I guess I didn't think about that. I always thought it was like something in the meat, and then when I was little, I was like, "What do they think? There's something like in the meat of the steak that will help the cut heal faster?" And then as I got older, it was like, as the steak thaws out, that's actually increasing your risk of infection. So
right,
that doesn't seem plausible, but I guess the cold that makes I understand.
Right, and if you have a bag of peas, it works as well.
Yeah. That's the other thing I see is a bag of peas.
Yeah.
I guess before we get to the album, I should talk about what we're drinking because you didn't hear any cracks or any pops as we opened up any carbonated beverages.
Uh-huh.
Tonight, OJ really pulled out all the stops.
I did. I'm going all out because this is the most important night of the week.
Yeah, and you really splurged, and you bought a returner to this podcast.
Really? You drank this on this podcast
Yes,
before?
I've drank this on this podcast before. The second time ever. Wild Irish Rose is back, everybody. You really splurged on that $5 bottle of Wild Irish Rose, OJ.
Hey, man. You're a good enough guy to where,
I'm worth it.
You're worth, blowing that Lincoln.
Blowing the Lincoln? No, it's go.
If you're going to go to town...
Yeah,
you might as well take the Lincoln.
Yeah, you're gonna go in a Lincoln. You're not blowing the Lincoln. That's like an episode of like My Weird Fetish or whatever that show was.
I mean, what was that show called? $5 bill.
What was that show called? My Weird Obsession or something like that.
I don't know.
There was a show where like half of the episodes are about some guy that likes to fuck his car. I think it was on like A&E or something like that. Okay, so you were kicking me.
I apologize. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I know you are.
Rub some butter on that.
I'll rub some butter on my toe. Okay, so time to talk about the album, I guess. Like I said at the start of the podcast, we did listen to Holy Hell by Architects.
Yeah.
That is the name of the album. It's not an expression of like, holy hell, Architects. Holy Hell is their newest album. It is also their number. It's the number of, I think it's like their 7th album.
Their 7th album?
Let me make sure. It's,
and just for the record, while we're talking about Architects, if for some reason I go into a coughing fit or I start gagging, it's because...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Every time we bring up Architects, something is physically wrong with me.
I forgot about that.
I don't know why.
That was so long ago, it seems.
It didn't happen listening to this. I mean,
that's
I
good.
Enjoyed it.
You finally got over your Architects allergy.
I did.
I forgot about that. All right, so... Oh, this is their 8th studio album.
Their 8th studio album.
It came out on November 9th.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an album that is primarily about grief. So to give a little bit of backstory on Architects as a band, they are a British band. They're from Brighton in England, in East Sussex.
East Sussex.
County or whatever the hell they have in England. I think they're counties or something. Shires. Something. They're from the Shire. They're hobbits. No. So Architects is a British band. It was founded by twin brothers, Dan and Tom Searle. Both of them
passed away.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I guess, once we go through a little bit more of the history. So it was founded by twin brothers. You had Dan on the drums and Tom on guitars. Tom would also go on to be the primary songwriter and also the primary lyricist for the band. And they would make 7 albums with those two both being in the bands. The lineup has been fairly consistent, I think. Their original vocalist, however, they had a different vocalist originally. His name was Matt Johnson, and he was the vocalist on their first studio album. After Matt left the band, he was replaced by Sam Carter, who has stayed with the band ever since. Right now, the lineup consists of Dan, Alex Dean playing bass, Sam Carter, Adam Christensen from a band called... Adam Christensen is their rhythm guitarist. He's not... He might have been in a different band, but then lead guitarist is now Josh Middleton. A very important event in the recent history of the band would be in summer of 2016, in August, when Tom passed away. And this was in 2016. This is when, I mean, sort of the thing of the year was so many like celebrities and famous people passing away.
Yeah, I remember saying, man, this year sucks for death.
Yeah, there was so many of them. And really like him and I think, did Robin Williams die that year?
I believe so, yeah, 2016.
Tom passing away was one of the more affecting ones for me because Architects was really one of the first metalcore bands, one of the first harder metalcore bands that I started getting into, and one of the first ones that I really, really connected with. And because Tom was such a big part of the band, I mean, he was the band in a sense. It was, that one was hard for me, and then thinking about how hard it was for the band.
Sure.
And
especially a twin brother.
Yeah. Not only do you have your bandmates, who for a lot of bands are already, like a family, you have your actual twin brother in the band, identical twins. I remember seeing the Facebook post that Dan made the day after Tom passed away, and it was devastating. It was one of the more affecting deaths of someone that I've never met. I've never even seen an Architects show, and I would it bummed me out a lot. And so this album and the band going forward, this album is really in a lot of ways sort of a goodbye to Tom.
Right.
And it felt like the album that came out before Tom passed away, which is All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us. In retrospect, a lot of that album sort of feels like it was Tom saying goodbye to us.
Because he knew
he was quite sick. I don't know if when they were writing and recording the album, if he would have been called deathly ill. According to Dan, he had been doing actually pretty well in the couple of weeks leading up to his death. He had been in and out of the hospital for that whole tour, but apparently he'd been doing quite well for a while anyway.
No, specifically, what kind? He had cancer.
He had skin cancer. It was melanoma, I believe.
And metastasized?
Yeah. It had progressed to stage 4, basically.
Sure.
And he had previously, battled with it and been in the hospital and fought during the recording cycle of the album, their 6th album, which is Lost Forever, Lost Together. And so there's a song on that album that's just called Cancer. And it's about his personal experiences, but so much of All Our Gods feels a little bit like a goodbye. And in an interesting parallel, it felt kind of like David Bowie's last album.
Sure.
When people listen back, and that was a couple of days later that David Bowie passed away.
Right.
When people listened back to a lot of those songs after he passed away, things really started to make sense.
Like, oh, he knew he was sick. And
yeah. And the interesting part, and the interesting parallel with David Bowie is at the Grammys that year, when they were giving the In Memoriam, Dan's picture was right before David Bowie. Or not Dan, sorry. Dan is the one that is still with us, Tom. They're identical twins. Even I get them mixed up. That was sad.
And that was very, just the way you said that just now was very...
Even I get them mixed up. Look, silly me. But no, his picture showed up right before David Bowie, which is that's a pretty great tribute for anyone, I think. If your picture gets shown, right before, or even in the same thing in an in memoriam, next to someone like David Bowie.
Sure. You've done something.
You've done something. And I really think Tom, genius might be too strong, but like so much of their previous work was, it is so good.
Mm-hmm.
I have difficulty describing it. Really, this album, which I really like this album, and I like it for what it is, and I think it is good. But the entire time I'm listening to it, in the back of my head, all I can think of is I can really
tell the difference.
I can really tell that Tom's not there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the instrumentation certainly, but also in the lyrics, because Tom was the lyricist, and so there's some of the wit and some of the wit and some of the bite that is gone from the lyrics that I think was really Tom. I think Sam and whoever else contributed did a fine job. It really feels, you feel Tom's absence on this album.
See, and me being the old codger who, didn't grow up with Architects. In fact, this is my introduction to them.
Yeah.
I don't have that frame of reference.
Yeah. So this is your first thing. So it's interesting. Like it's interesting to me how your experience was with the album was. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to talk about some of the notes that I have written here.
Okay.
We'll do a little bit of song by song. This won't be as laborious as my Silent Planet song by song. But there are a couple of things that I noticed that are they're Easter eggs or references to some of their previous work.
Mm-hmm.
We've got on the first song, the very first song is called Death Is Not Defeat, and there is a synth riff in that song that is a direct callback and a direct link to what is technically the preceding song in their discography, which is Memento Mori, which is the last song off of All Our Gods.
And a lot of good orchestration in that first song.
Yes, absolutely. And Architects has, in their last couple albums, really started to embrace bringing in a lot more elements. Mm-hmm. I think they kind of always have. In their album from 2012, which was called Dayseeker. Mm-hmm. No, Daybreaker. Sorry, Dayseeker is a band. Daybreaker, I believe, was the name of the album. That one had some slower moments on it. Since then, they tend to not have melodic songs. Like on Daybreaker, they had a couple wholly melodic tracks.
Holy.
Where it was all Sam with all clean vocals and they were slow songs essentially. And that was sort of a holdover from the album that came before that one, which was called The Here and Now, which was stylistically very different from the rest of their discography. Mm-hmm. They were going in more of like a post-hardcore direction on that album, and sort of because of fan backlash and that sort of thing, they decided not to pursue that direction. And either I don't know if it was entirely just because of fan backlash or if they really felt like, you know what, we actually like making this stuff better. Mm-hmm. Regardless, that's what they've kept doing since then, is making heavier music. I'm trying to remember how I got down this track. They used to have more melodic songs, and now they sort of blend melody in for the most part. But ever since Daybreaker, really, they've managed to blend those things more seamlessly instead of having one song be just that and one song be just heavy.
Right.
They've embraced blending the two things together, which is something I always like.
Like a spoonful of sugar. Yeah. And that medicine.
Yeah, I always appreciate that in bands like Rivers of Nile. Their album that we had that Jaron and I had on the show, which is where Owls Know My Name. That album, the second I was sold on it was the first second that I heard saxophone come in on that album. Like the second I heard that, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm sold on this record. This is awesome. I like this. So I appreciate seamlessly blending in melody to the point where it makes sense and it's not jarring and it doesn't bother you.
Now I've heard some jarring metal sort of based saxophone before. You all right? You can make it?
I'm still sick.
Is that from your sickness or is that from accidentally breathing your own spit? Because I do that too.
No, that was from my sickness. Either that or it was from inhaling the wine flavored nail polish remover that we're drinking.
It's fortified.
Fortified wine, everybody. Fortified wine. So anyhow, yeah, the riffs, the synth riffs. There's a lot of good synth riffs in here. There's another reference in the song "Damnation." There was another reference, which is, "If hope is a prison, maybe faith will set me free." The first part of that, "Hope is a prison," is a reference to another song from All Our Gods. It's a song called "Gone with the Wind," which was really the first sort of closure or death-themed track on that album. Architects, for most of their discography, has been a politically oriented band.
Sure.
And All Our Gods was really the first time that Tom had started introducing that sort of element to their music. And really on this album, that is the main element, because this is an album that is primarily about grief.
This album is?
Yeah. Certainly I would think that the prevailing theme of this album is about grief. There are still political themes, somewhat similar to All Our Gods. A lot of the political themes are focused on sort of nihilism. There is an anger, but it's not like a stand up and fight anger. It's more of an anger that it's too late.
Right. It's the broken anger shuffled toward darkness, you know?
Yeah. It really, a lot of the politically oriented songs on this feel a bit like someone who's given up on trying to fight what's happening in the world around us. And I think that connects most cogently. Ooh, that's a $10 word. I think I'm using it in the correct circumstance. With the theme of grief. You want to pull your microphone a bit closer to you?
Am I okay? Am I too far away?
Yeah, you were.
There we go.
There you go. Your pop filter is right in front of your face. Like it's in front of your entire face. Do you want to move that down?
What's the pop filter? Is it?
That's
this thing here.
That's the big filter.
Okay.
In front of it.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Move it down.
Good job.
All right.
You still can't see me.
Well, I can see you.
You can move it in front of your mouth. You can move the microphone down too.
See, now I'm just being weird.
Yes, you're being weird now.
Sorry.
Okay, so another reference. There is a reference called in the song "In Holy Hell." There's
it's the third track.
Number four. So in the title track "Holy Hell," there is a line that says, "Remember we were born to burn," which is actually a reference to Lost Forever, Lost Together, from a song called Broken Cross, which is one of their more religion-focused ones, because as I understand, at least at the time, pretty much all members of the band were non-religious. There is, once again, a synth riff in the final track, Wasted Hymn, which is yet another callback to Memento Mori. This time it's the synth riff from the end of the very end of the song, I believe.
Right.
And then there's also a line which references "Life Worth Dying For," which is again a reference to Memento Mori. So like a lot of this album plays almost like a full sequel to just the song Memento Mori, in the way that Metropolis Part 2 from Dream Theater is a sequel to a single song, which is Metropolis Part 1, the Sleeper and the Miracle or something like that.
No,
I think it's the Miracle and the Sleeper. I think I had it backwards, but I'm pretty sure that's it. So like the entire album is like a sequel or an expansion of that concept. So this album is like an expansion or a sequel to Memento Mori almost. I really enjoyed this album, but again, it's just an inescapable fact about the band going forward that whatever they do, they're essentially a different band without Tom. And that's something that can't really be understated. It's not a bad thing. I like what they've done, and I like that they're continuing to go forward and continuing to make music, and they're continuing to be architects. But musically speaking,
it is a thing that they are different.
Yeah, they're going to be a band, and it's inescapable. And it's something that you have to talk about because Tom was such an important part, and it's something that they talked about themselves in the post that Dan made. He really acknowledged that Architects was really an extension of the band that he and Tom had made when they were 15.
Mm-hmm.
And going forward, it was really...
Were they both the same age?
They're twins.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're twins. So they when they were 15, they had started a band, and Architects was just that continued for the next 15 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's inescapable that they're going to sound different. But I think they did. I think they did Tom justice, and I think they made him proud. If he's out there somewhere, I think they made him proud.
They made his memory proud.
Yeah, they made his memory. They honored his memory. That's a good neutral term. So me, I mean, like I said, I've been a fan for Architects for a long time, but this is your very first experience with Architects.
Yes.
So what are some of your, I guess, your notes, some of your highlights?
I thought it was a very emotional album. The whole thing was very emotional.
Sam has a fantastic ability to convey emotion in his voice.
Mm-hmm.
He has sort of a strange, it's not entirely unique, but his screams have the quality of also being melodic.
Right.
Like he is able to convey melody through his screams somehow.
It's funny, even in some places, I don't know how you're going to feel about me saying this.
Okay.
But there are places where he reminded me of Chester Bennington.
I feel it. No.
Yeah.
I get it. I absolutely get it. And I think if there's anything that you could say about Chester as a vocalist, is that he was always very good at conveying emotion. Anything else you want to say about Linkin Park, fine. Chester was always very good at conveying some type of emotion.
Right.
One thing that Sam and Chester, I think, maybe have in common, and Chester, abandoned a lot of harsher vocals on their later work, but like with Sam, I remember reading on their Wikipedia page one time that Sam's vocal technique for his harsh vocals is best described as tortured. Like it's very shrill. It's not, or maybe shrill isn't the best word because there's a lot of negative connotation to the word shrill, but like it sounds painful, but he's kept it up, and really he's only gotten better and better and better at it with each album. Like like as much as I liked All Our Gods, his vocals on this album are way better already, and I thought they were fantastic on their last one, and then this one comes out, I was like, holy crap, Sam's vocals are insane.
And Tom didn't get to hear it.
I suppose, yeah. And I don't know if it's just that production was better for the last. I didn't check to see actually where they produced this. For the last 3 albums, ever since Lost Forever, Lost Together, they've been going to Sweden and hanging out with Frederick. What's his name?
Douglas.
Frederick Douglass. No, the one of the producers, or the 2 producers that are responsible for what they call the Gothenburg sound.
Oh, the Gothenburg sound.
The Gothenburg sound. Gothenburg sound.
Yeah, I know who you're
Frederick
talking about.
Nordstrom.
Yeah.
He's been their producer on their last couple of
like
albums.
the store.
So, yes. So Nordstrom's, yes, he's the owner of that, and also an audio engineer
in Gothenburg.
in Gothenburg, Sweden. Which is interesting that he owns Nordstrom because he's in direct competition with IKEA. Even though they don't specifically sell furniture at Nordstrom's.
No, well, I think they might sell some.
They do sell
it's a department
furniture,
store,
but
yeah.
they don't specifically. It's like they've got like kitchenware and stuff. That's dumb. So yeah, they've been producing there, so I don't know if they just spent more time on his vocals or what. That was dumb. That was stupid. That was stupid.
That was dumb.
That was dumb.
First floor, women's wear. Second floor, kitchen supplies.
Third floor, death metal record production. Also some metalcore every once in a while. But mostly melodic death metal. From Sweden. But yeah, they've been going there for the last, I guess if they did that on this one, it would be the last 3 albums.
One of my favorite bands is in the Gothenburg sound.
Is that
So you can guess
At the Gates?
I love At the Gates, but that's not the one I'm thinking of.
In Flames?
Yes.
There we go. I knew it was one of those two.
How much does he know about me? Yeah.
Well, because you've said that In Flames is one of your favorite bands, or is like your favorite band. So
they're up there.
So I was trying to remember. I get In Flames and At the Gates confused sometimes.
With good cause.
So yeah, they've been going there. How many times do I have to say they've been going to Gothenburg, Sweden, to produce their albums? So, yeah. So you liked the emotional tone. Anything
I love
else?
the emotional tone. I love the emotional tone. I love the technicality of the guitar. I really enjoyed the guitar and the guitar work in this.
I think what was his name? Josh Sawyer? No, Josh Middleton.
Josh Middleton.
I feel like there's a Josh Sawyer in some other band. That name's coming out of somewhere. But Josh Middleton, I think, does a fantastic job. He's from another metalcore band. They're called Silosis, I believe. Is the band? I said that in the most Nodak way possible.
Silosis?
And Silosis.
Oh, yeah.
There's a band called Silosis. They're from England.
They play loud music, yeah.
They play that loud music with the screaming. But yeah, I believe that is the band he was from. Is from Silosis. Mm-hmm. And I think he does a fantastic job filling in for Tom and filling in. I mean, he's taken his spot.
Sure, yeah. Tom's not coming back.
He's always. I mean, he will always be in those shoes as their new lead guitarist. But I think he does a great job. One thing I want to point out is the song "Doomsday," which came out, let's say, last year sometime already. Mm-hmm. I think it was maybe late last summer. Doomsday was written from material that Tom had left over. So that one is not original riffs from Josh. Doomsday is, and Doomsday really feels the most like a Tom song, and that's why is a lot of it was extra material they had.
That's not on this.
All Our Gods. Doomsday is on this.
It is on this.
Doomsday is
the
the
tracks.
penultimate track.
I was doing dishes. Well,
yeah.
So
that's your music time.
Yeah, dishes. It is. I can listen to something loud.
Yeah, Doomsday is the penultimate track on the album, which I think was a good place for it. Wasted Hymn, by the way, I thought was fantastic as a closer. Mm-hmm. So you really like the technicality.
I love the technicality, and I agree with you on the vocals. The vocals were very well emoted. Like I said, yeah.
It's just I don't understand how he does that. Like how he can bring so much tone in the musical sense
to screaming.
Not in the emotive sense, tone in the musical sense to his screams. I don't know how he does that, but he's great at it, and he keeps it up. And so, as far as I know, has not had problems.
No, I enjoyed this. Now, all this being said, what would you recommend now going from here? What album would you say
Architect
to go forward to for Architects?
I feel like the one you'll get the most out of will probably be All Our Gods.
Okay. So maybe go backwards.
Yeah, go backwards. I think that's probably. I think that's a fair. I think that's a good idea.
A fair progression, I guess, in the regressive sense. But
yeah, to go backwards, I think would work well for you. You'll like their production does not dramatically differ, especially since Daybreaker. Mm-hmm. But like you can really feel the progression of their style because they actually managed to get heavier as time goes on. A lot of bands don't get heavier. I think Architects does get heavier. And I think there are some superfluous things about their sound that get stripped away. And they really find a good core, especially by Lost Forever. They find the core of their sound and sort of continue with that. But sort of the same way that like when we talked about Pig Destroyer, and also with Converge, is like the progression of their sound is not changing it, but just sort of cutting the fat.
It sort of evolves. It evolves in the pieces that are vestigial. That's all, folks. Yep. Vestigial organs, they eventually stop growing.
Off. Yeah, they're trimming the fat off of their sound to where it's like, yes, this is still absolutely, this band's record, but it is a pure distillation of your favorite thing about them.
Sure.
And I think Architects does that, especially by All Our Gods. I think that is a very good distillation of their sound with Tom. Mm-hmm. I'll be really interested to see how they progress forward with Josh and what they're going to sound like with him.
With Josh Sawyer.
J.E. Sawyer, who's a writer. Anyway, yeah, fact checker.
Hey, I'll fact check over here.
Fact checker.
Oh, my phone's almost dead.
AKA Siri.
Hey, Siri, who's J.E. Sawyer?
My web search turned something up for who is J.E. Sawyer. Have a look.
Video game designer.
Oh yeah, okay. He's the designer for Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I got that from. I think his name is Josh too, so that's probably where I got Josh Sawyer from. Is Fallout New Vegas, which is coincidentally my favorite video game.
Is it really?
I don't know what the coincidence there was, why I said coincidentally, but it is my favorite video game.
I've heard things about the new one aren't so great.
Yeah. So this is the video game part of the podcast. We're mostly done talking about the album. It was good.
It was good album. Loved it.
Check it out. If you like Architects, I think this pays a lot of respect too.
If you've never heard Architects, from my perspective, it's also
good for someone who's never listened to Architects. And if you maybe don't listen to this one first, maybe get to know Tom a little bit better. If you've never listened to Architects, dear listener out there,
go out there and get All of Our Gods Have Abandoned Us.
Yeah, all our gods have abandoned us, and Lost Forever, Lost Together, and Daybreakers. Maybe it says Daybreaker. I think Daybreakers was a movie about vampires.
It was. You're right.
Yeah,
that is correct.
I think it was just Daybreaker.
It was
so
Day Tripper.
Day Tripper. Yep. Those 3 albums I think are sort of the holy trinity of Architects with Tom. Their earlier stuff is fine. Mm-hmm. I actually like the Here and Now just fine. It doesn't bother me. And then their first 3 albums I have not listened to very heavily. Hollow Crown was their first, or no, it was their second album with Sam, but it was like their first big album, I guess.
Their breakout.
Yeah, it was their breakout, at least in the scene, where like that was when everyone in the metalcore scene was like, "Hey, Architects,
they're good."
And so that was, as I understand it, sort of when Architects really found themselves. Mm-hmm. But like I think their entire discography is fine, but like those 3 albums, the last 3 albums with Tom, are the holy trinity of Architects albums, in my opinion. So yeah, we were talking about Fallout 76.
Fallout 76, and then yeah,
I've heard it's not doing so well as well. I haven't bothered to buy it or really keep up with it because I wasn't on board from the start. I don't like the idea of a multiplayer Fallout game, especially the way that they tried to do it
with no NPCs.
With no NPCs, and basically what my friend Matt, if you've listened to the podcast, Matt was on a singular episode over the summer when we talked about the Chariot. Matt told me, if you've played the game Rust, you've played Fallout 76. Like, they have that weird card system, but it's basically Rust otherwise. And like, that's the thing about Rust isn't trying to be something other than it's not. Fallout 76 is pretending is like a shitty Steam Greenlight game. Mm-hmm. Like Steam Greenlight survival game that is pretending to be a Fallout game, and it's not. And like it just really shows what I've thought for the longest time, which is that Bethesda just at its heart does not have a respect for the Fallout series the way that they have a respect for the Elder Scrolls.
Sure,
because the Elder Scrolls is
fantastic.
Yeah. And the Elder Scrolls is Bethesda's baby. Mm-hmm. You know, I have a couple problems theoretically with Skyrim. I love the game, but there are some things that I would like to see in Skyrim.
What do you really? What is that?
Well, like more defined classes, for example. You know, it's an extremely fluid class system where
fluid.
Morrowind and Oblivion had much more strictly defined classes and a lot more options.
Because you can be a magic user who's really good with, you know, one-handed swords. Yeah.
And like they're
heavy armor, and
you basically have to, if you want to do a class, you have to role play it. Yeah. You know, there's no path necessarily, and I think that comes at the expense of a lot of things. And in Skyrim, on the whole, sort of feels like kind of somewhat of a shallow game. And for me, I say this as someone who loves the game, but someone who has also played Fallout New Vegas, which was made by Obsidian, which for the most part was the team on the original Fallout games, the first 2 Fallout games, which are classics. And Fallout New Vegas to me it's not graphically very pretty. The map is not as well designed necessarily as like Fallout 4's. Mm-hmm. It's not a visually interesting map. You're in the middle of the Mojave Desert. There's not a lot to look at. But the story, the plot, all of the quest lines are so deep and involved
in New Vegas
and intricate, and everything you do has some sort of an impact on the way the game ends. Instead of like Fallout 4, where there are basically 4 ways to complete the game, mm-hmm. in Fallout New Vegas, there are 4 main ways to complete the game, mm-hmm. but every little thing you do has an effect on how well you complete, and certain characters, your companions, get their own endings.
Really? So it has a lot of replayability.
It is replayable because you can do everything different almost every time. Mm-hmm. Every time you play it, you can do 75% of the entire game in a different way and achieve some manner of a different ending. And all of the DLCs for Fallout New Vegas are so great, and they add even more to the overall game. They're not just separate little disconnected pieces off to the side.
Like in Skyrim.
Like in Skyrim. They are directly connected to the main plot of the game for the most part, or at the very least, they are a result of the main plot of the game. Mm. And sort of the backstory, the loose backstory that you have as the courier. And there is a singular character who is not present but is mentioned by people throughout the first 3, mm-hmm. chronologically speaking, that you end up facing in the last one. And the decisions that you make don't necessarily have an effect on the ending of the base game, but it does have consequences. And it feels like it's all connected. The world feels lived in. Mm-hmm. Everything still looks maybe dirtier than it should, being being a fairly heavily populated area and 200 years after a nuclear war.
Sure.
That's one thing that has bothered me about all the 3D Fallout games. It's like, it's been 200 years. You can fucking sweep. There's no reason for your house to be full of junk and shit on the floor. You can sweep your fucking house and fix the window.
I think the nuclear wall caused a lot of Erdgaff, though.
Erdgaff?
Yeah, Erdgaff.
What is that?
It's an acronym. IRDGAF.
What does it mean?
I really don't give a fuck.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like...
Never heard Erdgaff before.
I've not heard Erdgaff. I know Snafu.
Yeah.
Which is situation normal, all fucked up.
Right.
I know...
Scuba.
Actually, I don't know scuba. What is scuba?
Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I thought that's the obvious. I thought it was like a slang acronym.
No.
Like FUBAR.
Right. Fucked up beyond all recognition.
Right. I thought it was like that.
Oh man, this thing is totally scuba.
Our situation's totally scuba right now.
Need you to send in backup and air support.
We're totally scuba, dude. All right. That's the video game portion of the podcast done. So I think we've kind of talked ourselves out. We're at time. Holy hell, good album.
Good album.
Very emotional. I think it is cathartic. There are sometimes when it's like, I don't know if somebody has lost somebody recently. I don't know if this would be therapeutic for them or if it would just make things worse. But I think this is one of those things that it was probably therapeutic for the band to make. And I think if it's something that you connect with, then I think you can get some sense of catharsis out of it. That's one thing that's always attracted me, especially to metalcore, is because so much metalcore has such an emotional core to it.
And it's a very metal emotional core.
A very metal emotional core. Yeah. But like say whatever else you want about the genre as a whole, that people can be sort of elitist and mean about it, but like the best stuff, the stuff that is the most well made and is really I don't know. I don't know where I was going. The stuff that I like, at the very least, the stuff that I like is good.
The stuff you like sucks.
My shit is stuff, and your stuff is shit. Thank you, George Carlin. But really, what I'm trying to say is, part of what I like so much about it is a genre of metal that is not afraid to be emotional,
right,
and is not afraid to connect with that. At the very least, this current generation of bands consisted of a lot of people that grew up listening to emo and listening to emotional music and learning to connect and express that part of themselves creatively, but also in a aggressive manner, which I think lends itself to catharsis. The aggression of that, I think, helps purge negative emotions a lot, while also recognizing those emotions. Like, death metal can kind of scratch the same itch, but at the end of the day, the subject matter is not about that.
Right.
Unless you've got an album like Where Owls Know My Name by Rivers of Nile. I have to name drop that album at least, once every couple of episodes.
Well, that was twice this episode.
Twice this episode, so I filled my quota. So holy hell, it's good. It's emotional.
Now, every time you say it that way,
holy hell,
it's good.
So, interesting stuff for next week. It is November 28th as we record this, which means by the time we meet back together, it will be my favorite month of the year, Death Metal December. Hell yeah. So, you get to start us out
sweet
with Death Metal December. What, if anything, do you plan to bring to the table to bring us in?
I want to bring in Heartwork. I want to listen.
Heartwork by Carcass.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to give that a listen. I haven't listened to that in too long.
I think I've briefly listened to it. I've listened to a little bit of Carcass, not a lot. They're in my death metal playlist on Spotify, so I will bring up some Heartwork and listen to that for next week. I'm excited. I'm always happy to go into Death Metal December. I'm planning on bringing. I just want to say straight up what I'm planning on bringing. Originally, I think I had some other ideas, but I think now what I'm going to go with, speaking of Rivers of Nile, my first week, I think I'm going to bring their sophomore album, which is called Monarchy.
Was death metal?
Yeah, Rivers of Nile is a death metal band. They're progressive death metal, but still death metal. Monarchy leans more towards standard or like technical death metal. And then the week afterwards, I plan on bringing... I'm excited for this one. And again, maybe it's arguable that it's not death metal, but I will be bringing for my second Death Metal December entry From Mars to Sirius by Gojira.
Oh, man.
Because whales!
Flying whales, man.
I'm so pumped for Flying Whales. And the thing is, because I'm going second and therefore fourth, I get to conclude Death Metal December with Flying Whales. So fuck yeah. I mean, it's From Mars to Sirius, but really the highlight of the album is Flying Whales. I don't care what anyone else says. That's the best Gojira song. So expect that in the future, but for next week, Heartwork by Carcass.
Heartwork, I know what my other one is going to be as well.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us, or are you keeping it secret?
Well, you told your second. Leprosy. I want to bring in...
Leprosy, is that the band or the album?
That's the album.
By whom?
Death.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. We're bringing in the OG.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm here.
The genre, the genre namers, basically. So, yeah. All right. So we've got Death Metal December all lined up and taken care of. Week 1, Heartwork by Carcass. Week 2, Monarchy by Rivers of Nile. Week 3 of Death Metal December, Leprosy by Death. Week 4, From Mars to Sirius, a.k.a. really the album should be called Flying Whales, by Gojira. Get hype, people.
Woohoo!
Get hype for Death Metal December. Everyone should celebrate.
We should almost do a bonus cast one we both agree on.
I mean, I agree that both of your albums are death metal albums. I just wanted to bring some progressive stuff into it because that's what I dig the most.
Right on.
So get hype for that. Get hype. All right, time to end the podcast. Thank you all very much for listening. My name's Kale.
My name's OJ.
You've made it to the end of another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast.
Congratulations.